book, it was about exactly what you said, Elizabeth.
Most of it's true.
Well, no, about the feedback and about having the positive attitude and the positive. And I see that every day in what Karl does. And honestly, this book, when Karl was deciding that he wanted to write a book, which I think Catherine had probably, we'd even seen Catherine about the time we were starting to put all the notes and stuff together and started typing it up, because it was about at least a good 15 years of notes in different notebooks all over the place and lots of pieces of paper.
Scattered stuff. Yeah.
And I started typing it, and I told Karl, I said, it's really good, Karl. You really need to do something with this.
And I said, you're way too close to it.
And I actually was in tears because some of his stuff was so moving. And he's like, whoa, you're just the wife, you know.
First I said, is it that bad?
I did not.
Like, so I asked him, is it that bad? And he said, no, it's great.
Great.
I said, you're too close to it.
But a lot of that passion, I think, is what and that determination and that energy, like you said, Elizabeth, that's really that's what has gotten Karl this far, being diagnosed for over 30 years. Well, take it away, Karl. That's your intro.
Have you been diagnosed for over 30 years?
Yes.
Whoa.
1991, actually.
Yeah. But I know it's probably over 40 years, because I was my first symptoms started at 17, and I'll be 55 this year, so you can do the math. It's over 40, or close to 40. It's over 40.
47.
Yeah. Well, I talked to a friend recently who's had it since 71, and he's run 25 marathons. So he's and he started running at 40, and he was diagnosed at 39. So I'm looking forward to that interview when we get it edited. He's amazing, but I've been very fortunate that I've had very slow progression, and I've had a wonderful care partner. That's made a big difference. I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of great help, and I've also been a lot of things have fallen in my lap that I didn't know were kind of gifts. When a friend I went to see a friend. It wasn't a friend at the time, but taught me Reiki. Worked on me, give me Reiki, and said, and I was a huge skeptic, and I tried it, and an hour later I felt so great that I had to stick with it. And he after several sessions, he said, you can come into me, but you need to learn how to do it yourself. So Angela and I became Reiki masters, and that made a big change in my life. Being vegetarian made a big change in my life. I think also I was probably also thinking that I had a brain tumor before I was diagnosed, and giving myself 6 months to live. When I found out Parkinson's, it was, all right, I can live with it. So whatever it is, I know it's not going to kill me. That was a gift as well. And Parkinson's has brought me more than I had Parkinson's when Angela met me, and she still married me. So that was a gift. It's helped me start. I was able to start a business around Parkinson's in spite of
Fantastic.
I was able to write. I'm water, dry mouth.
Yeah, I noticed.
I've always been a writer, but and I was always writing about a variety of subjects with Parkinson's. I was writing lots of little notes and observations.
Yeah, I typed a lot of them up. It was a lot.
But if you see my bin of there's a lot that hasn't been typed up. That I need to
Book 3, yeah.
Book 3 and 4 and 5. But
well, and now we decided during COVID to actually go into recording interviews with people in the community, because I think there's more than one of the things that we talk about is everybody has a story. Everybody has some tidbit to share that can help someone else along the journey. And so we started, initially we recorded, important people that they're doing revolutionary things in the Parkinson's community, and they didn't have Parkinson's themselves. But then finally I said to Karl, I think you need to interview somebody with Parkinson's and finally get them up on the site. So we did just do 2 interviews, one with the friend who's was diagnosed with young onset and has been living with it for 50 years. That's 50 years. And then just interviewed a friend who's only been diagnosed for about 12, 13 years, but another amazing story. And the more stories we share, our hope is that we will have at least a resource, some type of resource, so when somebody does get diagnosed, they could go online and view this person's story and see, how they're coping with it. And if folks are willing to tell their stories, they're so inspirational. I mean, we get inspired. I mean, as we were saying earlier, the conferences, we miss the conferences because that gave us an opportunity to mingle with folks who were doing
great work,
extraordinary things. They think it's just their ordinary life, but we think it's extraordinary.
And the more perspectives, the better. That's how you learn, and that's how you grow, is you hear other people's perspectives and how they're living with Parkinson's. I think that's how you learn, that's how you grow. But the book, I tried to write the book in short chapters to make it more. I'll speak for myself. I like shorter chapters because I guess either I'm ADD or I just have a short attention span, and so I prefer a short. I want to be able to pick up the book anywhere and find something of value, and have. And I was looking for books that gave me something I could actually use, lessons I could take home, something to try rather than hear someone's story and not I did this and I did this, but how they do it. And so I wanted to at least provide a book where you had something to try or take home, or something different, a different perspective that
we didn't. I'll fill in. Go ahead.
Actually, I've read a lot of books, reading other people's books for a while, because I didn't want to stamp up. I didn't want to take anyone else's ideas. So I tried to be novel at the time, and I think I hope I accomplished that. But and I think that the second book led to the first one, because people said I like your exercises, but can you expand on what you already did? So the second book we created home exercises for to create to expand on the first book.
And the funny thing was, we did have somebody review it who was in the community, and they were like, well, where's the answers? And we were like, no, that's not our job. That's your job to find the answers in the workbook. We're just giving you the space to kind of, as we were talking with Jacob, when Catherine so lovingly introduced us to Jacob, we were talking with him, and it was like, this is a workbook for you to do the inside work, not, to have somebody fill in the answers for you, because honestly, we don't have everybody's answers. It's a journey within versus,
we're also unique.
just going through the motions. Like you said, Elizabeth, it's about the energy, it's about the intention, it's all those things are very important. And so that's what Karl wanted to do. And I think that has been really sick. I'm not bragging. I'm just mean it's successful in the stance that, it's just another perspective to add to your toolbox. And if that helps you, then, and if we help one person, then we've succeeded.
That was when I wrote the book, that was the one goal, is to help one person. And I think it's up to at least one person. So,
and as Karl says, it will help you level your table. You just stick it under the leg.
It'll fly as far as you can throw it. It's amazing. Yeah.
See, Richard, we do still have a couple jokes left.
It doesn't float, but I'm sorry about that. The next copy will float, but it's not fireproof, but it makes great kindling. If you need fire, if you need something for your furnace, this is great. It's also if you can't sleep at night, it's perfect for that.
Well, we had a conversation earlier, or last week, I guess now, because it's Sunday, but we talked to a couple where the husband was fairly newly diagnosed about a year ago, and on Zoom, and met them, and they wanted so much information. And we told them a lot of things, but then we stopped and said, wait a minute, you can't do everything at once. You have to take it one piece at a time. So, write down your 3 top things that are disturbing you in your day or in your life, and then approach those. And then if you get those in a good place, then you can take one off and then add something else. But as Karl says, it's a
marathon, not a sprint. And that's sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and try to do too much too fast, and that can get in the way.
And the landscape's going to change, and you always have to be prepared for the change, although change is hard.
I'll speak for people, myself and most people I know with Parkinson's. We hate change, or at least I hate change. I'm like a cat. I like my routine.
Did you like Richard's shoes though? Have you ever a cat?
I would play with those forever. But I live in Fairfax, Virginia, and if I go on the street on that, I'm going to get shot. So
yeah, the Pentagon might be.
All right, I'll send you a pair over after this.
No, please. Not if you want me to survive in Fairfax.
Yeah, we live too close to the military.
Fairfax is known for having more attorneys per square foot than any other city in the country. So I don't want to face the law for laser pollution.
But we really wanted to hear your questions today. So did you have anything else you wanted to add before we open it up?
No. Probably the only thing that in the book that will go out of date is the resources, which I'll probably have to update at some point, because the resources have changed over the years. But
well, and also too, I think your approach to living has adapted to a lot of the things, like the exercise, the role of exercise.
I don't mention much exercise or boxing or javelin. Well,
I was just going to say, actually,
I have a question.
Yes.
You asked a sensible question.
Who wants to go first?
He was first.
Okay, go.
No. Mine was just a stupid question. You say yours.
There's no stupid questions.
I'll tell you what I was going to say. I said I've got an impression now, you see, of Karl throwing this javelin, yeah? Throwing it, yeah? And as we run up the runway, we shake, and instead of throwing it forward, we throw it backwards and take out half the audience.
Yeah, no lawsuit
So,
there, that's for sure.
That might happen in bowling.
Yeah. Well, I'll say a central question now, because but I think you're absolutely right on what your book says. And you know, when I was diagnosed 4 years ago, I looked at Elizabeth's friends, Mr. Curtin, and that was what gave me the, I think, ability to move forward, because it was very positive. You know, and so yeah, I think it's a great thing to have the positivity and to be able to sort of help people. You know, I just get very sad when I see lots of people, especially in my area, that basically got a diagnosis but literally don't know anything about it at all. And I think I was quite shocked when me and Helen used to go to sort of support group meetings, and people just didn't even know basically what freezing was, how to get out of it, or things to do. And I just find that very, very sad, you know. And yeah, so I have many sort of discussions with the hospital about how you treat people with Parkinson's in a better way, information. And I'm about to go into battle on Tuesday with Parkinson's UK. So I have a meeting lined up with them, which is a lovely lady. And she's going to, hopefully, we're going to try and get boxing or other things into Hampshire, because at the moment we're very limited. But yeah, I find your story really inspiring.
Thank you very much. I let me I have the solution. Well, I have a story for you about support groups in a second. Let me go back.
Too much stuff going through the head. Yeah, start with one.
Okay, I'll come back to Catherine in just a second. I'll tell you. When I was first diagnosed, I was anti-support group for a long time, because I didn't want to hear other people's stories, and I want to deal with my own first a little bit.
I just made you a list so you can check it off. Yeah. It's like 4 things.
I was afraid of well, I'd seen a lot. I didn't want to deal with. I was a little selfish, I guess, but it was kind of important selfishness to be taking care of myself. So I wanted to take. I didn't need a support group because I was.
Well, also too, the ones we were going to, everybody was way older than we were.
I was so young.
Decades, yeah.
And I didn't identify with anybody. And I felt. I didn't. It was just all I heard was either some people were either hugging the floor, or it was negative. And I thought, finally I said, I want a support group that every time I come in, I feel better and I feel uplifted, and it's all information. So we started our own support group, and for 12 years, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to a point, because we were helping a lot of people, and we were helping ourselves at the same time. And that, but then after 12 years, we kept saying it was their support group. It wasn't our support group. But then we realized it was our support group, because we hadn't taken people part. No one else wanted to take the reins.
Yeah, we asked for some help to take the reins, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are doing so great. Keep going." I'm like, "No." That's not how it works. This is a volunteer. Yeah.
We've got your speakers. We've planned every month for 12 years a support group, and
some people actually thought we were getting paid. We're like, no.
We were keeping the blog active, and trying to write the book,
and doing speaking engagements
around the country. Plus, we were on a board in Dallas at the same time. And how do we do it?
I don't know how we did it. But we closed the support group because nobody would step up. I was like, well, we can't keep giving this energy all the time. We need some help in return. And unfortunately, I think we undid our own undoing, because, you know, we did try to provide so much that they were like, you know, we're done.
Yeah.
So we said we were done. And that was really unfortunate, because like you said, Richard, you know, we wanted to bring people together to share information, but also to be advocates for themselves, to say, you know, we need resources in the area. We want to advocate even for their own care. I mean, that to teach that in a support group was really important, which is one of the things you were touching on. But also too, you know, we found great thing to come out of COVID is these online groups. You know, this has been truly amazing. I mean, I will say it does not totally replace an in-person group, but
it is a great way to get to know people that you wouldn't normally meet. It's just been great to meet you all. I don't think I'd probably meet you at a conference, but it's. I hope I meet you at a conference, but if not, this is a great way to.
We'd have to wear a blue jacket and yell out Elizabeth's name.
There'd be all six of us.
She's like, I don't know.
We'd all be like,
But Andy would be standing there going, they've copyrighted. Because I have a quick question. This is a silly question. While Elizabeth's on here, have a bit of fun. Right? Me and Helen always laugh, right? Every picture that we see Andy, he's either got the blue coat, and that blue coat has traveled all around the world, and he has a stripy red and black, was it jumper or t-shirt, and that goes all around the world. And I don't know how much people know about comics, but the naughty boy in one of the comics that's been going on for years, I think it's the Beano. And I'm trying to think of the name.
Dennis the Menace.
Dennis the Menace, right? And he wears the same T-shirt as Andy. But I can't say that to him because I think I'd upset him. So me and Helen always laugh because we go, here comes Dennis the Menace.
Well, Richard, you've actually seen in some of those photos the Rock Steady boxing shirt from our Rock Steady Boxing, because when Andy came, we got him a shirt, and next thing you know, that shirt showed up in a lot of the pictures. I was like, that shirt has gone farther around the world than me. But we better get back to Catherine's question.
I'm so glad you guys came on. And, you know, when I read your book, it was many years ago, actually, I was so impressed. And it sort of gave me the idea that your book was something I needed to empower my support groups with. So I bought a bunch of your books and I gave them out to as many people as I could. And I think one of the things that really impressed me was, Karl, when you started having symptoms very, very young, how did your family respond? Because I never got that, like how your family was reacting.
I think my parents were shocked. They were shocked. Well, it was a strange way to find out that it was a Friday. The appointment was on the Friday, and they said we'll get back to you on Monday. So so I had a diagnosis for the weekend, and then Monday. Monday, the doctor didn't call. The nurse called and left a message
on the answering machine.
And said, "We're treating you for Parkinson's." Okay, that was not the way I wanted to find out I had Parkinson's, and to get no answers, until Tuesday. It was
well, and I'll jump in, Catherine. Before he had symptoms, you know, I heard the stories about that they told him to stand up straighter, to walk better, to kind of, you know,
it was a long process. I mean,
as though you were doing these things on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Shuffling my feet, stand up straight. I always had ear problems and eye problems as a child. so I had tubes in my ears twice. I had double vision at 5 and 6, and it never. And but one surgery I think for the eyes, but never fixed my lazy eye. So that could have been Parkinson's related. I don't know. I always had some sort of speech issue as a child, which is slowly getting better with luckily to speak out, which I'm fortunate to have access to Samantha.
Yeah, that's a great program. My husband's in the Speak Out program here with speech pathologist who does it virtually.
Yes, my speech. I have one in Virginia. I get to do some work virtually with Samantha, but it's not therapy.
No, it's practice every day, 5 days a week.
Right,
online.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Well, I mean, when you were diagnosed, and I'm sorry to go back so far, but what I'm trying to figure out is, it seems that people are being diagnosed younger and younger. It used to be the average age was like 60, maybe 62. The statistics are showing a little bit now that it's closer to 57 and going backwards. And so I'm just wondering how families can start to get educated about these neurological diseases because they're increasing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, because that's one of the issues I'm kind of dealing with right now with my community, is trying to educate people about Parkinson's before they get Parkinson's, try to let them know what to look for. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I know that when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I was supposedly in the 1 percentile. Now I would have been, I guess I'd be in the 2 percentile. So we're seeing a slight progress, at least I guess in diagnosis, but it's not. Problem is, it's such a unique disease for everybody that education for. There's no central organization for saying my patient's got these symptoms. Will the neurologist call and check and make this is if the neurologist isn't well, first of all, the person doesn't go to a neurologist or doesn't have access to a neurologist. They may not get the right diagnosis because they're not going to the right doctor. And it's about education for the doctors. It's education for the patient.
Well, and that happened to you because it took the 6 years to get a diagnosis. And Karl, you had the one doctor who said have a beer and chill out. And it was like the stress, that was addressing the tremor in the foot. It was like, well, you have a tremor,
I was in college and I was drinking plenty of beer.
The tremor was still there.
Yeah, because it took my husband, it took David 3 years to get diagnosed, but we knew he had symptoms longer than that. We now know he's had symptoms over 40 years. Once we started realizing that one of the first things to go is a sense of smell starts to disappear. Well, we got married when he was 26 and he'd already almost lost all his sense of smell. Things could be burning on the stove and he'd have no idea.
I smell great, and
well, you say you smell great, but
I take a shower.
No, I'm being serious.
No.
There's
No.
Like Karl will say that there's no odor, and I will say there's an odor, and then he said, then there's times I say there's an odor, or he says there's an odor, and I don't smell it. So I don't know. We get that. I think there's a word for it, like phantom. It's like a phantom odor.
Right.
Sometimes you can go back and forth, and it's not urine based.
That's a good thought, because, Richard and I have talked about this before. Is years ago, I started smelling a strange smell from my husband. And I thought that he hadn't taken a shower or something. It was a musky kind of smell. Now I know that that's Parkinson's. And I'm wondering if you noticed any different smell coming from Karl.
I have a few times, Catherine. And it's not musky as much as sometimes it smells like
metallic.
kind of metallic, medicine related. I can't, that's the only, I don't have a frame of reference, but it doesn't happen all the time. It kind of comes and goes. And
Yeah, it's not all the time. That's what there's studies now in Scotland that this woman can identify by sense of smell somebody's t-shirt, or if they walk by, if they have Parkinson's. I think I'm one of those people because years ago I noticed this strange smell and I just couldn't figure out what it was coming from my husband. I was, sniffing around trying to figure it out.
I have done that.
And I'm like, did you take a shower? Did you put deodorant?
I've heard I smell like fresh strawberries, but
it's very strange, and it's one of those things where, again, we're all different. Our brain systems are, nobody's exactly the same, whether you have Parkinson's or otherwise. And it's one of those things I talk to people about is I didn't know what I was smelling, and then it occurred to me maybe a year after I started smelling it, it must be his Parkinson's. Because he's been diagnosed 17 years, but I smelled it long before that.
Well, and I also too, at one point I thought maybe the smell was the medications coming through the skin. At one point,
that's what I wondered.
Yeah, but you smelled it before he was diagnosed, so then you rule that out. But that's what I think now. Like garlic. If you eat a ton of garlic, it will come through your skin and you'll smell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to the family thing, a couple things occurred to me while Karl was talking is, we've met a couple families who have generational Parkinson's.
I have too.
And to them, it's normal.
It's
natural,
yeah.
They do go get a diagnosis, but honestly,
but they know.
But the family has embraced the differences, which I think is tremendously fascinating. Like one family we met in Roanoke, Virginia, they had at least 4 generations that had Parkinson's, and they just adapted, and that's what I find so fascinaning is that it was normal for them in their family.
When they finally came to the conference and they realized this isn't really normal. So it's like a light bulb came on that something needs to be looked at. And
well, they were getting support. I guess by now they had realized they needed support and to benefit the community and the back and forth between the families. But I mean, they even talked about the father would get on the tractor because they had a family farm, and he would do all the ordinary work. It would take him longer, certain tasks would take him longer, but the family just
adapted.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that I'm always concerned with is the stigma. And I don't think we should, just like having the Parkinson's games, there shouldn't be any kind of stigma because somebody, walks differently or talks differently or, does something that whatever normal is, because there is no normal.
Okay, Catherine, we were talking the other day about the conferences we used to go to, and we have a weekend conference, and it's just like the whole weekend. We'd be inside the whole weekend, actually, pretty much in the conference center or the hotel, and it was like no one had to explain what was going on because everyone knew they had Parkinson's. It was the world. It was a world of Parkinson's, and we're all let loose. And then when we came out of the conference center, it's like now we're in the real world, and we have to explain ourselves, and it's no longer the norm for us. It was like an escape for 2 days or 2 or 3 days sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you again for writing the book because I think it has changed thousands of people's lives for the better. And the information that you gave was so real. You weren't hiding anything. You were telling your story and teaching at the same time. And that was really important. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And to give you a little more information about the family, my brothers, Actually, my brothers at the time were prepared for what one was, well, they were both helpful in their own ways, but I think that it was more my, I think the age difference made a little bit things a little harder for them to put themselves in my position. They were away from home, so I was like an only child at the time.
But I will say
Yeah.
then in the decades that I've known them, they've changed. And that's been interesting because both brothers have children who have chronic conditions, not Parkinson's. And they've understood that you have to adapt and you have to embrace the fact that things aren't whatever normal is perceived by. And there are different ways of living. I think initially when you were diagnosed, they couldn't embrace that because they were caught up in their, getting married, having families and all that. But now they've seen that something has happened with their family and they've grown to adapt. I have to tell you the one thing that took a long time, two things that took a long time. One, protein.
Yeah.
Took decades for them to understand you can't fill them with protein and then let's go for a 2-mile hike. Not happening, not going, nothing's happening. And then the second thing was driving.
Yeah. Why you started driving again, Carl? No, I didn't. I'm not starting again because I stopped for a reason, and they didn't understand that why I stopped driving, and that wasn't for myself. It was for others. I was afraid to hurt somebody else rather than myself.
Mm-hmm. My husband did. Yeah, David did the same thing. He stopped years ago. It's been 15 years at least. Where he stopped driving. Didn't want to kill anybody else.
No, exactly. No, that was my worst fear, was to hurt somebody else. And my parents, I think when my parents actually listened to the audiobook, that I think that they finally understood, rather than read the book, they listened to the audiobook, and I think that made a difference to them. So
yeah, Carl's father, in I guess in like his late 6th decade and most of his 7th decade, before he started having health issues, I think he finally began to realize that, it was a moment by moment challenge, and that, there wasn't really any forward. Sometimes, you had to be present and not try to live, a year or two down the road. He eventually got to that point, and he was very complimentary about how Carl handled his condition. But I think that took a long time for them to understand those challenges. And I know a lot of people who are newly diagnosed, that's probably the hardest thing. They can't quite get their family to understand that, I look okay, but it's all the other stuff that, what you don't see that really impacts the person with Parkinson's the most. And Catherine, I don't know how you educate that, because that's, I see posts online and Facebook and other places where it's the non-motor stuff that seems to be the most challenging.
The things people can't see. They don't know what else is going on inside. They can see what's going on outside, but even then it's not a consistent tremor or consistent freezing or whatever. And so, I mean, for years, people kept telling David he didn't have Parkinson's. Like, you don't have the tremor. You don't look like you have Parkinson's. And they thought he was lying. And I said, no, he has here's the diagnosis. It's real. And you just don't see him when he's doing this.
A friend told me a great story a few months ago. She said, she ran into this woman at was it a restaurant?
No, it was at a doctor's office.
Doctor's office, and she said, the woman asked, "Why are you here?" And she said, "I have Parkinson's." She goes, "Oh, I had that." And it's like, what?
She had it, but she didn't have it anymore. We were like, and did you get the information on how to get rid of the Parkinson's?
Please share it.
Didn't know you could get rid of that, like slough it off, Okay, Jacob's got his hand up.
Jacob, kept you waiting. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, so when you, I really loved the story that you opened the book with about the camp, the camping story. What was that? Camp Onward Bound?
Outward
yeah.
Bound.
Yeah.
Outward Bound, yeah. I really loved that story and connected with that from my own life. And but talking about the when you were first started having these symptoms around 20 years old, you went to the doctor and they said, you're too young to have Parkinson's. How many doctors did you go to before they finally started to like maybe accept this?
It was 6. Best I went through my notes. The best I figured out was 6 years and 9 different doctors, and the I didn't want to list the doctors' names or mention where they were, so I gave them numbers to give them the nameless and faceless, and to kind of get not to denigrate, but really to I guess maybe a little bitterness to their maybe bitterness, but I realized maybe they didn't have enough information at the time to make the diagnosis. But it was a way for me to cope as well. A lot of it was frustration, not getting the diagnosis, and not once I was able to at least get a diagnosis, I was able to deal with it. That's and I could move on from there.
Well, even number 9, who did the diagnosis and gave Carl the Cinemed to try to make the difference. He had a horrible plan of ramping Carl up on the meds, which
8 pills after 8 weeks.
8 whole Cinemed in 8 weeks, and Carl is still nowhere near that dosage at this time.
I'm still at 3 right now.
Yeah. So Carl knew something was wrong, and then had to go find Dr. number 10, who actually was the one who gave some hope of managing it and instructions on how to manage it. You know, Dr. Kohler, he was fabulous. I mean, I think he saved Carl's life, honestly.
I think I probably would have burned myself out really fast had I ramped up to what that Dr. 9 wanted to do. But Dr. 9 was able to at least make the diagnosis and realize that I need to try Cinemed, and that made a difference after 24 hours. And I saw major benefit from the Cinemed. But although after a couple of days I was getting disconnected, even after the medicine they ramped me up on. And but I realized that the people at Outward Bound actually saved my life as well. Even though I really wanted to complete the program, and I had made a lot of friends there, and I wanted to keep want to stay with them and do it was as dangerous as it was. And
Carl tells me the stories, and I almost lose my mind because I can't imagine him climbing up some rock wall when the pouring rain with no medicine, freezing along the way, trying to get to the top of the mountain. And that was the first day, not to mention the 8 days that came afterwards.
And 10-mile hikes at night. Yeah.
Going through river crossings where it was cold.
That program is really intense.
Yeah.
Really intense.
And if you have Parkinson's, is really intense.
Well, and Catherine, that kind of feeds into that family thing, because honestly, it was kind of a family encouragement that Carl needed to do this program to kind of find himself. Because I think they were thinking that, you know, if he went to this intensive, it would give him the confidence to overcome what was happening. Well,
right.
I mean, there's nothing that was going to overcome the fact that, you know, his brain wasn't, you know, doing the proper thing it needed to do.
And I had a couple weeks of depression after that, because it was hard being torn away from what I hope to complete and see. I never got to go to I was just a few days shy of the the rest of the kayaking and the solo, which I would have gotten to complete, but I was a few days shy of that, and I was looking forward to doing the solo, where we spend like 24 hours just sitting under a tree, even though you get attacked by bear down there.
But also too, you had worked really hard to
Yeah.
get ready for the
Yeah.
trip, you
Yeah.
know, working
Mhm.
out, exercising,
Yeah.
which I'm sure helped him. Otherwise, I don't even know if you would have
Right.
made it to
No,
9
no,
days.
no.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
it also turned out that was probably the rainiest summer they ever had in the mountains of North Carolina at that time, and it was all the paths were washed out, and really hard to get a foothold on those paths. So that made it harder. Luckily, I had good. Well, everything that I had was soaking wet when they took me back, and all my gear was shredded. My mother was like, what did you do to your clothes? After we threw out almost everything that was in my pack,
Yeah.
because you can never get anything dry because it was so wet out that summer. But it was
Yeah.
my legs were so bit up from the gnats and the mosquitoes. But other than that, it was a
Yeah.
great trip.
But
Well,
I
you know,
wonder-
it's a survival thing, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it teaches you to survival on your own and with a team, and it's, you know, it's a great program.
It
But
is.
I can't imagine having to do that with Parkinson's. I mean, geez.
It was
You can do anything if you want. Anything.
once.
Once.
But you know, I have to say, Elizabeth and Catherine and everybody, that, you know, honestly, I think if Carl hadn't gone, I mean, Carl was strong of mind before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it just added to the intensity of,
Yeah.
you know, if I could do that and not have an answer, then I
Yeah.
can do most anything. I really think that young man needed to have the confidence to continue to try to find the answer. Because,
Right.
you know, I don't know, did you ever get to the part where you thought, you know, did you ever dump the brain tumor thing and think, you know, I guess I'm just going to be like this the rest of my life, and that, you know, this is it? Or did you never get to that part?
No, and I had to find an answer because it was because I had to move
Something
on.
was wrong.
I want to start my life at some point, so it was like I needed an answer to move on, and that was the driving force of what for my future.
Well, and I also say it's a driving force today. Because as you say that, I think about the fact that when something changes with, you know, like Elizabeth said, you know, I live with Parkinson's, but, you know, it's not the whole of me.
No.
Right.
You have to address those changes pretty quickly. So we do a lot of that observationally between the two of us. Like, you know, if I notice something, I ask a question, or Carl will mention something, you know, and we try to get to the root cause of where, you know, say the medicine isn't working as well. Back in 2010, you know, Carl's meds started declining quite precipitously, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And then we finally, you know, we went to a counselor and said, you know, something's going on in our relationship because we weren't communicating well. We weren't having that teamwork that we've always had. And come to find out, she's like, well, Carl just lost his mom right at the end of 2009 to cancer. And it was affecting both of us, the grief of coping with that.
Well, and plus, my family hadn't planned a memorial, so there was no get together to put a finite end on it, and it was like
it came in mid 2010, but this was between her passing and that service.
Yeah.
And so we had to work through a lot, and we did get some tools from the counselor, you know, on how to recognize that and then what to do afterwards, you know, if there was a time where the disconnect happened in the communication.
And it's one of those examples
Right.
where the mind, the mind body spirit connection took a toll on my body and my spirit, because my mind was like, I was depressed, and I'm not one for depression,
Mhm.
but that was something I hadn't dealt with, and I had to move through it to get to the other side.
And when one of those parts of the pyramid, we kind of call it the mind, body, spirit, when one gets off, the others start to fall. And if you don't quickly address it, you can end up in some serious situation.
Well, you guys were really smart, though, to recognize that you needed help, because a lot of people just go on and then it gets worse and you don't know really why or what the cause was. I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
It's okay, no worries. I just want to say it's also always about the conscious versus the unconscious. So you have to try to control this in a way also, and control what you are thinking. And as you say, if you get the tools, you can change the script. And in the end, it's about, in my opinion, if you really believe, you can do anything. And life is just about finding the balance in life with Parkinson, because lots of Parkinson is extreme. I have been there by myself. I have had depressions. I have been crazy places I never want to go. But if you believe and you have the tools, you can live in the present and really feel good.
I totally
Well
agree.
said,
Well said.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Right on the money.
Yes.
It's
Now,
really
you-
about mind control sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to reset your mind every so often that you're going to do something. You just may have to go about it in a different way, come at it at a different angle.
Exactly.
We are going to have a conference in Fuerteventura. It's a little island at the Gran Canarias from the 6th to the 12th of December. And I have chosen the name for the congress that is called Change, because it's all about changing the habits and up here.
And adaptation, like you said, adapting to the changing, situation.
Yeah.
Perspective.
And I think a lot of people, just want to wear the blinders and not open up all the possibilities. And, as Richard was saying earlier, what makes him upset and angry is that, people don't even want to take the blinders off or even open them up just a little bit. They just want to stay in this narrow focus. And sometimes narrow focus works, but I think you get a better outcome when you kind of open yourself up to the possibilities, and you do learn about freezing, and you do learn about protein, and you learn about the meds. I mean, you don't have to learn as deep as some of us have, but you need to.
I often meet people with Parkinson. They're very negative, a lot of them. And I'm really wondering why. And I have just become chairman for the local Parkinson Association here where I live. And we meet every Tuesday. And lots of people, some of them, okay, maybe a little bit old, but they're singing like this. And then we have to sing, and they sit. And then they say, come on. Jeg ved ikke redde. Jeg siger ikke mere. Come on.
Yeah.
And then they can see it, and they start to laugh, because, but they're really like, come on.
Do you know, I'll tell you what, Elizabeth, I have a similar story. So our support group has a meeting called the branch meeting. So when I was first joined it, I thought the branch meeting meant the meeting where all the big wigs in the support group turned up to. So I turned up there, and they were, the average age must have been about 72, right? And they were all in rows looking at the front, and there was a lady there who came from the local dog home to talk about dogs, and she said a question, and then there was a lady who does meditation that me and Helen do, and did some meditation, right? And she said, what do you all think of that? And they all went, I'm like, and the people who run the support group, right, we're sitting there like they used to at my school, like school assembly with all the teachers down one side of the room. And you're right, instead of getting them up and moving and doing something, they left them. So then I happened to say, well, what's the title for the next meeting? Because I was really depressed. Actually. I thought I'd reached like the living dead, you know, because it was just awful. And they said to me, oh, our next meeting in a month's time, we're talking about dating agencies, fraud, and what we call toy boys. Now, over 70s and 80s. And I'm like, you what? Yeah. And I just couldn't believe it, because like Elizabeth said, like there's me thinking, give me some pom-poms and let's get them moving. Let's get them talking. Let's get them to say, what's your name next to me? May I help? It was dreadful. So I thought naturally that it was my age, yeah, because I thought, you know, I'm maybe much younger than these, and this is what happens. And I've got a friend who's 77 and another friend who's 70, and they all went to this group first of all, and they all said, well, we're not going back there, it's too depressing. It was just amazing. So, and this is part of my reason that I was saying Parkinson's UK on Tuesday to tell them to get them sorted at my support group, because it's just awful. But it is amazing, really, how lack of knowledge there is. You know, we've got in our area about 850 people who suffer with Parkinson's. And I reckon out of that, the local support group may touch about 90 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know whether any of you have come across the issue of trying to help people with Parkinson's. So people often say to me, how do you get treated by the general public when I'm out? Yeah, so I've got my sticks, and if I have a problem in walking, I walk backwards through the high street because I don't care, because I'm trying to get home. So that's my challenge. And I came out of the gym locally and I was walking home. And I've got my Parkinson's UK t-shirt on, bright blue. Yes, a big sort of hoodie that's got Parkinson's UK on. I've got my two sticks, and a guy with his wife in front of me freezes. Yeah. So I instantly, like we all would, we instantly recognised it. And I'd been told weeks before that I was always trying to be a bit too helpful to people. Yeah. So I had a decision to make. Do I help this couple, or do I leave him here overnight frozen to the pavement? Yeah? It's a bit like one of these Walt Disney cartoons. There was a devil and there was an angel. And I thought to myself, now I know what everyone said, just walk on and don't help. But I thought, well, I will do. So I went over to this guy and I said, oh, I hope you don't mind. So I have a rucksack on my back, which is where I carry all my gym stuff, my two Nordic poles striding out. And I turn up and I said to him, do you know what's happening to you? Yeah, have you got Parkinson's? And this guy went, yeah, I've got Parkinson's. So he was in his late 60s. So I said, do you know what's happening to you at the moment? No, I don't. He was with his wife, yeah? So I said to him, well, you're freezing because we're in a crowded area in the shopping centre, and your brain is saying, don't move, stand still, whatever. And I was just going to say, we've got a friend that's coming. So we've got a little kitten from our next door neighbour, and he's eating my cat's food as I'm talking. So we're trying to shoo it out. So I said to this guy, you know, and I showed him some techniques to get out of freezing. Yeah, so one, he'd never heard of it and whatever. And I said to him, why don't you come along to our evening group, which is a bit of a laugh, pint of beer, yeah, down the local pub, typical British fish and chips, and we talk about the football and we talk about this and that, and we're there to support you. Not much is talked about Parkinson's. And do you know what? He turned around to me and he said, why do I want to go to a support group and look like you? Because you look like a cripple. Right? So he said that to me. So it don't bother me. It goes over my head. You know, I'm just like, oh, I nearly swore then, get me banned. And I said to him, let me tell you then a few things about people who I know and what I do. So by then I'd lost my complete control, and I gave him 10 minutes of all the presentations I do, going around, you know, to a few other countries and doing presentation, all the university groups I do. I went bang, 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 bang. I thought you're getting a lot, mate. and his wife turned around to him and he says, "There you are, Bert. I told you should go to these support groups and get off your backside." And he just went, "Oh," and then he walked on. And it's funny that the only people that I've ever found unhelpful have been Parkinson's people who I've seen down the shops, you know. And I did some collections, like I expect we've all done, with an old tin, you know, in the town centre trying to collect money. And I had two lots of people, and I always thought I must sell the support group, yeah, try and build its numbers up. And people are just not interested at all. And you know, so and the other thing that always amazed me was I was always known as a bit troublesome at my neurology department locally, right? Because I think they're horrendous, and that's another point I'm bringing up on Tuesday. And I couldn't believe it, because I used to hear these stories, right? So I don't know what you have in the US and in Denmark, but we have this system of Parkinson's nurses. So basically, I was told I was on, when I got newly diagnosed, on my Parkinson's nurse's waiting list, yeah? And that she'd be in touch with me because the drugs they put me on and whatever were quite powerful. So after 3 years of being on her waiting list and trying to see the movement expert, because there's so low resources, and she does some other strange things which I don't quite understand, I had a phone call one day from my movements expert, right? And obviously, he knows who I sort of am, and he knows that I'm not a silent voice, yeah? So what I thought to myself was, before I was going to have this phone call during the pandemic, I thought, I must stay calm, because this 10 minutes is for me and not for anyone else, yeah? And literally, the first thing he said to me was, "Hello, Richard." And then he said the fated words of, "Can you tell me what medication I'm giving you?" And that was it. I went... So for the next 10 minutes, well, it was like Muhammad Ali fighting, you know, and he accused me of lying. And I said, because I had the information that I'd had from other Parkinson's people in the area because of the poor care. And I said to him, "I never lie. I always tell facts. And if you want to see the evidence I have of the poor treatment that's given out, I'm quite happy to meet you up at the hospital and we'll go through it." And in the end, it was like a punching bag, you know, he sort of tried to knock me down and then I knocked him down. Unfortunately, I sort of won the boxing match. And at the end, he went, "Thank you for everything you do with Parkinson's." And I nearly felt like saying, "Well, next time, know what medication you give me." He felt like saying that. You know, imagine coming on and going, especially you'd think my folder would be marked red, like this bloke's active in the area. Yeah. And he said to me, "What medication?" Well, I knew I was on Centimet and I was on Sunny Hours, but, you know, and so I said, "Well, you'll have to hang on," I said, "while I go and get the bottles from the medicine cabinet." And when he came back, he said, "Oh, I've looked it on the computer now. I now know what you're on." And I said, "Well, that's not very good, is it?"
We're not onto that.
So we're not under him anymore.
Oh, good.
I moved to London because I always remember thinking, don't lose.
You should have said to him, "Try him out back quick."
Yeah. Well, and I just remembered, and you know, in the back of my head, when I was starting to have a go at him, I just thought, "Oh, stuff this, forget this 10-minute appointment. Let's go for it and tell him what you think, the way people are being treated."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Can we make a little bit of fun?
Yeah.
Because I have 2 minutes, I just want to show you the blue jacket because he's still wearing it.
Oh, that's fun.
This might be a project. You know, you could do "Where in the World" and everybody sends in their picture.
Well, have you ever seen those books which are called, was it Find Wally or?
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, and then I said to Helen one day, "We'll have to do that with Andy. Where's Andy? You're looking for the blue coat."
Maybe I should buy a new jacket for him, bring it to Germany in next week. Maybe another color, something new.
They won't recognize him.
Exactly.
Well, Catherine, do you remember the Parkinson's coat? You remember?
Go ahead, make colors.
Oh, it's on my phone.
No.
Yeah, there was this coat that was doing the travels. It actually started at a young onset conference. So
Oh, I remember you guys talking about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It was-
I'll see if I can find the picture.
Well-
It's kind of hard to miss because it was so loud.
It was so
Let's
distinctive.
see.
But Richard, to add your story, I have a technique that I use with I use until I really built a really good. I still do it actually. A good relationship with my neurologist. I've had about 10 years now. I want to make sure he was looking at my paperwork. So
Because they have us fill in the US, we fill out paperwork ahead of time of the appointment. They ask a bunch of questions. So one of the segments on the document is you have three things you want to talk about. So I'll fill out like have you read my book? Did you is there life on Mars? And how about world peace?
So just questions that are ridiculous that he can't answer, but he definitely think about. And so I'll know whether if he actually looks at the paperwork or not, by seeing those questions. So if he's not laughing or asking me what are these questions, I'll know he hasn't seen the paperwork.
Hasn't seen the paperwork. And I found the picture of
Excuse me,
Carl.
it's not to be put on
let me
light, but I
see.
have. Wow.
Isn't
I
that
have to
loud?
run because my granddaughter is coming.
Can you
She's
put that
only
up
2
again?
years
I couldn't
old.
see with my glasses on.
Okay.
So bye.
Yeah,
Bye,
okay,
Elizabeth.
yeah,
Nice to
take
meet
care.
Very nice to meet you, Elizabeth.
Oh
Talk
my.
next week.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
My kids are coming home for Sunday dinner, so I have to run.
Oh, go,
Nice
yeah.
to meet you,
Bye.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Bye.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
I had one question, if you guys don't mind, and you know, we can do this offline, but one of the things that David and I are dealing with right now is because he has been on the medicine for 17 straight years. He's taking less medicine, but whatever medicine he takes, whether it's Cinemed or whatever, Apokyn, the injection, it puts him to sleep. It's like he has narcolepsy. Do you have any of those issues?
I don't.
No.
I'm
He's been tested for narcolepsy and they said, no, it's just Parkinson's. And it's almost like his brain doesn't have enough of the neurons to take up the dopamine. And so I'm trying different things, but I also put him on some new supplements. I think it's beginning to help, but he can sleep for 2 or 3 hours after he takes his medicine, and then it takes him an hour to wake up. It's like he's out.
Is he able to exercise and box or?
Well, we were doing the steady boxing, but COVID shut us down again. So I'm trying to get him to do exercise, but that's one of the hardest things. Is it was good to take him to a class and mix with everybody else. It challenged him, but now that we're home, I'm having real trouble getting him motivated to do much. Plus he sleeps so much of the time. So it's a real struggle. I am every day trying to figure out, and he is too, trying to figure out what level of medicines he needs to be on. So, you know, it's Cinemed now, 25 over 250. But like you were saying, you were taking such a large amount right at first, you knew there was something wrong. But if he takes full pills even, that's not good.
Well, actually, I started on, I think they started me on one, and then the next week was 1.5, or one, maybe it was 2 the next week. And by the second week, I was so disconnected that two was too many for me. So that
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we even knew anybody that has the sleep thing.
Yeah, it's apparently now it's been accepted that that's a response to after you've had the medicine for so long, your brain isn't taking it up right. And so that's why I'm looking at He's taking NAD, N-A-D. I don't know if you guys have looked into that. It goes with 2 other supplements he takes, but it's supposed to get rid of the waste in the brain, which allows less inflammation. So we're hoping. He's only just started it. It's been about a week and a half, but I do research all the time to try to find what are those other things that we can add in, because the medicine just, he does better sometimes with no medicine at all.
Well, Catherine, I'm gonna send you an article I just read. It doesn't particularly address the sleep thing, but it talks about impulse control disorders and coming off ropinirole that our friend Dr. Frank Church wrote. He's one of the guys who writes for Parkinson'sDisease.net, which we write for too. And hadn't read much of Frank's stuff, but this really kind of cued in, and he eventually got himself off Requip, but he talks about the withdrawal syndrome that comes with coming off a dopamine agonist too. There's 2 articles, and so Karl, yeah, it's a great article.
I'm glad you said that, because what I decided was if he wasn't getting, because there's 2 types of Parkinson's meds. There's the dopamine agonist, and then there's the Cinemat, which replaces the dopamine, but the agonist mimics it. So it has a different, what it does in the uptake in the brain. So I thought, well, okay, we'll slow down on the Cinemat and add in the Requip. I think the Requip may be helping a little bit, but they're not going to let him go high enough to make a difference, I don't think. They told me 8 milligrams was the highest. He used to be on 16 milligrams.
Yeah, that's what this article talks about. Long-term use of a dopamine agonist, and also the amount, which was a little scary, and which is why we're
please send that to me, because I'm at the point now where we just don't know, literally hour to hour, he's not sure what to take. And I know that is very common as you get further into the diagnosis, but it's so frustrating, because we don't know what to do, and every day is different.
That is it's always changing, and that maybe that's I think that's where maybe some complementary therapies can take the place of the meds, and whether headspace or Reiki or meditation or Qigong, or it's finding that one component that you like, and it's working for you.
Yeah, there are folks here that do Reiki and Qigong. Again, you have to go there.
Yeah.
I mean,
and with COVID, it's all shut down.
Well, and I think that motivation to do online stuff is a real thing, and we're trying to motivate each other actually to do more of that, because Karl went back to Rocksteady in person, and then Delta happened, and so now no more.
He was doing much better. I know that if he gets enough exercise, he does better. And it's so hot here. It's 94 right now. So, I can't have him out walking in this stuff. He'll collapse. So anyway, I just wondered, since you've had the diagnosis so long and you've been on different meds, I didn't know if you had any thoughts, but anything you guys can send my way,
sure, please
share. Because we're struggling. I feel like I'm in combat every day.
Well, I most of the people I know, or at least right now, have a hard time sleeping. So it's
he's the opposite.
It's the opposite,
because he sleeps at night and he sleeps during the day.
It's I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Keep our ears to the ground.
I was convinced he had narcolepsy, and they said no. So, but that's what it's like. Literally, he'll fall asleep eating his food.
Wow.
Yeah, the only instance I've ever heard of that was a friend who took I think she took Mirapex, and she would have these sleep attacks. but he's not taking that. So yeah.
No, he's never had Mirapex. And the Requip, we're just testing it. We've got one more titration to go up and see if the 8 milligrams makes a difference. But I don't think it's making enough difference that we're going to need to keep him on it. Then we've got to titrate down a little bit at a time too, because coming off of it is dangerous. So yeah, please, if you don't mind sharing that information, I appreciate it very much.
Definitely.
Love you guys so much. Thank you.
Well, thanks to Jacob for having us. And
Yes, thank you, Jacob.
So nice to meet you.
It's good to see you. I miss you guys. Hugs to everybody. I gotta go get some lunch for hubby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're headed that way too. Thanks
Thanks
again
so
for
much.
having us, everyone. Take care.
Yeah,
Nice
keep
to
in
meet you,
touch.
Helen and Richard.
What's that?
Nice to meet you both.
Oh, yes, keep in
And-
touch.
And
Yeah.
I think we'll be back. I love this conversation.
Yes.
I don't know if I can keep up with the reading though, Jacob, but
That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to read the books, just listen.
Yeah, just come
That's
and
what I've
listen.
been doing. I don't have time to read books. I read your book. I need to get your second book.
the good thing is it's a workbook, Catherine. So
Oh, that's good. That's good. I can share it with people.
Well, and the nice thing is each chapter coincides with the chapter of the book, the first book. So they kind of go together.
Awesome.
But you can they go together, but they also can go separate as well. But I will say that I think the audio the gentleman my audiobook makes me sound makes it all sound even better than reading it.
even Carl says, "Did I write that?" I said, "Obviously, because he's reading it." So.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are awesome. You really are. And it's